Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 117 of the Immigration Lawyers Podcast. And it's been quite a month as y'all been dealing with the craziness that is practicing immigration in 2019 and going into 2020, the ups and downs and injunctions, and just how busy and worried clients are and the effects it has on all our practices. You've definitely been seeing this. But on the upside, there's a lot of good things that are happening. People still get their cases moved forward. And for myself, just look at this podcast, the effect it's had. I have random people who are just regular people listening, and they tune in and reach out saying how much they enjoy it. But really, the colleagues who reach out and just express how helpful it's been, or just that they've been positive, they've had positive experiences from it, and they learn a specific thing that was really good. So it really is appreciated. I'm sitting here alone in a room talking, knowing that you're out there. I see the statistics and analytics, but knowing that when you come back or you see me at conferences and meetings and stuff, it's really a treat, and I appreciate that. So I want to thank everyone who's reached out on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, who listen and stuff. Feel free to just email me, just reach out, let me know you're there. I love to be in contact on LinkedIn. I'll add you to the mail list, which I haven't sent out in like 3 or 4 months, but just to keep connections. So when we have things going on, we continue the momentum with your help. I'm launching a new program. I've already launched it, but I'm going to talk about it probably the next one I do once it's set up a little bit more. But some new ventures that's going to help everybody who's practicing, especially business immigration lawyers. We got to stick together to help out these great immigrants who are coming here, investing, people with extraordinary ability, and the gamut of just high-skilled workers who are trying to come here but have been getting these crazy RFEs, notice of intent to deny, changing adjudication standards and all that. So I'm going to talk about that next time. But again, I just want to start by thanking everyone who's listening. It's a large group, and we're going to have a lot of power as we connect better. And that's my goal in this coming season, is to bring us all together in different ways. The Immigration Lawyers Toolbox and LinkedIn page are a big aspect of that. And so if you are on LinkedIn, which you should be, just reach out and connect with me, and then follow the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox page. I have a lot of info there, and videos, short videos, training material, all this kind of stuff I put out. Sneak peeks of my daily tips that are part of the daily tips program I have for members. But with that, I'm just going to go through the intro thing I got to do, and then we'll get it started. Welcome to the Immigration Lawyers Podcast. I am the host, Attorney John Khosravi, and I practice U.S. immigration law exclusively. For more information about the program, please visit www.immigrationlawyerspodcast.com. Please note that this recording is informational only and does not constitute legal advice. Please consult with a licensed attorney for specific legal guidance that suits your case. Also, this recording is copyrighted, and written permission is required for rebroadcasting. For more information about me, please visit www.jqqlaw.com. All right, so let's just jump into it and start with the big one, USCIS. Well, it's big for me because I usually deal just with USCIS. And, USCIS is an agency in flux, and the leadership constantly changing. The new leader was speaking with the Center for Immigration Studies. And if you're not familiar with CIS, or Center for Immigration Studies, they're a group that's, I don't want to be pejorative, but it's just a group that's some call nativist or anti-immigration and the like, or I'm not sure what they call themselves. But if you subscribe to the material, you see the things that are coming out from that group. And I would recommend actually signing up to their mail list, and just you got to know what's going on the other side. And everybody has good ideas sometimes. Even a clock, there's some sort of saying is, a broken clock is right twice a day. So just to see what's going on in their mindset, because they have a lot of influence over the administration, and a lot of things that they're doing in the administration is from things that their organization in the last 10 years during the Obama administration were planning, and even before that. So they had a meeting with USCIS acting head Cuccinelli, and this was posted on Facebook with a live feed, and I was watching it, and it's kind of disturbing. The things that are coming out of the acting directors, or whatever they call that head of USCIS, were unfortunate. Just his body language alone told me a lot about how comfortable the guy is in his own skin, so it's very revealing. But his comments, I mean, to me, I'm Iranian. My parents are Iranian. I think he made a racist kind of comment that was very inappropriate for a person that's acting head of an agency. But it just goes to show how overtly discriminatory this administration, or at least the people involved in it, can be, and that's such a disappointment. But one thing I've always said, I'd rather know if someone's has hate in their heart or is racist or something like that, rather than they hide it and just smile on my face. So at least I know what I'm dealing with, and that's Cuccinelli. So, but with regards to our practice, he made a big deal about pushing fraud and enforcement type matters, increasing FDNS kind of stuff. FDNS being the agency that does, ICE type activities for USCIS policing. And so they're going to really focus on that a lot more. So that's what we're going to be seeing. They're also reviewing EAD procedures to see if EAD should be given, because in their idea, it's a benefit, it's discretionary. So because it is discretionary, the potentially, if I read it the way I said correctly, we usually expect, for example, if you do an adjustment of status, that the EAD just becomes part of it, even though it takes so long nowadays that more than half of my cases get their green card and the EAD and AP never arrive. EAD being employment authorization, AP being an advanced parole permission to travel when you have a green card case pending. But they're reviewing the discretionary aspect of that potentially to not give it out. So that's a kind of a messed up situation right there. And then in total, they're saying the fees are going up and that they're trying to do modernization. That's going to be done in a couple of years. I don't see that happening, but to have all the forms done online, because I guess their goal is to have statistical analysis and analytics of the forms and filing so they can have better data. But, as in my opinion, they could use that data against us. So that's maybe a reason they'd want to get things going faster. But the internal craziness of the industry, of the agency, is increasing. I know internally, the employees are really dissatisfied. It's been openly talked about in newspapers. And one thing they did recently is they changed the way the USCIS districts happen. Before, they had 24 districts. They took out 8 of the districts and made them to 16 districts. And so they rearranged this stuff here in Southern California. Then they took San Bernardino in Orange County away from the Los Angeles district that we have here, put that as part of San Diego. So they tore that in half. And so that's a big deal. There's some stuff internally, because imagine there's 8 district directors, and these are high positions. All of a sudden, they lost out on a job. So it's a more competitive sphere to be a district director. There's fewer of them. 8 of them lost out. They probably transferred to other agencies, I'm guessing. But nonetheless, that means they're centralizing, consolidating, and that way they have more grip on what goes down. So when they demand something from these field offices, it's easier to control potentially. That may be their thinking. And so, Southern California may have been a more open, liberal district. Maybe that's a way of taking away that power from them. I don't know exactly, but that's an interesting maneuver that happened, and there's meaning behind these kind of decisions. Now, on a practice basis, I heard a colleague met some clients in Florida, I believe it was, where they went to the interview and brought their medical at the interview for adjustment, and the doctor had missed the box, as sometimes happens. And that's why I make it mandatory for clients to get an additional copy. And I go over the medical I-693 to make sure the doctor didn't mess up and miss something so that they could fix it before we go to interview. But the officer just went ahead and denied the case. Didn't even give him an RFE to come and bring it back. So that's a messed up situation to get a denial. And who knows what's going to happen after that. Imagine if they're on the visa waiver program. A denial there means that they're out of luck. They're out of here. So... And then the U.S. District Court of the Western District of Wisconsin. This is an interesting case for asylees filing for adjustment of status, and then thinking about the spouse of the asylee who's also coming. What if they get divorced? So that's a nuanced issue that popped up. And the Western District Court of Wisconsin held that the plaintiff, the derivative spouse of a refugee, qualified for lawful permanent resident status because he was married to his spouse at the time of the LPR application filing, even though he and his wife divorced before the application was granted. The court found that the word continues in INA section 209b3 refers to the time between the grant of the asylum and the filing of the LPR application, not the time between filing the application and receiving a decision. There's something like this actually in naturalization too, where they say if you file for naturalization as a spouse of a U.S. citizen, I mean, you're living together for 3 years, so you could take advantage of filing for citizenship after 3 years instead of 5. If you're together up to a 3-year mark and you file, and then you get in a fight and start not living together anymore, because one of the requirements is that you live together. If you move out, you can still continue the application if it happens after you file the application. That's a nuanced rule, but you can't get divorced. If you get divorced, then that goes away. So they kind of having that same kind of idea here. And so accordingly, the court granted the plaintiff's motion for summary judgment, finding that the grant of his application for adjustment to LPR status was proper, and thus that USCIS had wrongly denied his application for naturalization. Note that, I guess they were trying to naturalize. Not only they deny naturalization, they were calling into question the green card. Note that despite the decision, Volume 7 of the USCIS Policy Manual contains language to the contrary in the eligibility requirements section for asylee adjustment. See paragraph C. So that was that. Dorber v. United States, 3/29/19. And then, it's October. It's October, and near the end of October, I'm doing this recording. And, immigration lawyers, those who do benefits-based and family kind of stuff, it was a mad dash these last couple of weeks to file the adjustment cases to avoid the public charge coming in. Obviously, it's more work. For a lot of spousal cases, it still would have been fine. But if you're doing a parent of a U.S. citizen case, those are risky cases. So we got these filed, but luckily there was an injunction granted, which bought some time. And now people are coming in consultation with me. I'm like, dude, you got to get it in. You got to get it in right now, because the new I-944, whatever that form is going to be nasty amount of work. It's going to be more money, more headache, and who knows how they're going to interpret the public charge standard. And then Department of State issued their statement that they originally said they're going to be enforcing it too, but then I think they pulled back, saying they're waiting for their equivalent of the I-994. It's like DS 2020. I don't remember what it was, to come through and be accepted before they could start instituting the public charge. But we also got another gift, which was the requirement by proclamation that people getting immigrant visas obtain health insurance or show that they have the funding to get health insurance once they do enter the United States. And so that was kind of weird and didn't have much guidance in it. But Department of State, and there's a page for this, and the link's on the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox, so if you go to the news feed on the homepage, it'll be there. But it lists the requirements that they see, as from travel.state.gov, of how this interpretation of health insurance happens. And it's still vague, unknown, but it has breakdowns of who qualifies, who's not. And there's an interesting part. It said something like, if you're an IR5, which is the parents of a U.S. citizen, you don't have to have insurance, just show that you could be taken care of or something like that. And also what's interesting is, I think they said that for K-1 fiancé visas, you don't need to get health insurance because it's not an immigrant visa. And so that interpretation mix of a K-1 being a hybrid between a non-immigrant immigrant visa there is distinguished, where they kind of look at it as they essentially look at it as a non-immigrant visa, so the insurance requirement's not there. So in some cases, would say, then if the person can't get insurance or it's too expensive, maybe you go come in as a fiancé visa if that's possible. But once they come to adjust in the U.S., then they have to deal with public charge. But public charge is going to exist at DOS anyways by that time. So it's a crazy kind of place, and it's a hard argument to win politically to say to pull this back when a new administration comes, because the native population is going to hear this and be like, wait, they didn't have to get health insurance, they are using public services, and it was a very powerful political move and smart move on the side of the people who wanted this rule to be instituted and pushed it forward. Steve Miller and that crew is very, very, they're smart people. And as Sun Tzu in The Art of War says, you have to respect your rival. And you can't look at him as like just saying, this is some weird looking dude that's hung up in some room and thinking and planning and kind of saying derogatory stuff. And there's a bunch of derogatory stuff you can't say to these individuals for sure. They deserve it. But you got to know that they're not playing games and they have the power. So you got to figure out how to deal with that. And just for me, public speaking and letting people know about the situations, the best way I could do it, directly fighting these people, I don't think is really that possible. It's such a political situation, and the reality is, even when the Democrats were in office, they weren't doing much to help. So the immigrants, we're the weak group in society, and so it's really just us, really, that's protecting that. And not only that are they attacking, they're also attacking our livelihood as immigration lawyers. So we also have to be mindful of how that works. So we have to work hand in hand with the immigrants, and we have to have our own enforcement measures. We should be mindful to try to catch people who are doing fraud and not get involved with that, and also do good service and all this kind of stuff. But it's a weird situation we're going under, and along with the increased scrutiny, there was articles that said U.S. immigration is going to start checking social media posts, adding people, making fake accounts, getting on people's Facebook, adding us friends, and then researching like that, and then using Google Translate if there's some foreign languages to better understand what they're saying, which is kind of risky because Google Translate's not a reliable translation source. So, they might mistranslate and potentially create some inadmissibility issues for some people. So, a couple more things, practice and funny stuff. And this one is actually really important to know if you do marriage kind of cases. There was one case, and it's just the facts are so crazy. But this guy was with this one woman, and I think they even had a kid, and he wanted to get status in the U.S., and the wife was probably an LPR, and he had overstayed, so he couldn't adjust. So he went ahead and married her grandmother, and the grandmother did a spousal U.S. citizen spouse case for him. And while it was pending, they did an investigation. They came to the house, and at the house was the granddaughter. And they went in the house, looked around, they saw that, the bedroom was essentially their bedroom, and then the basement was for the grandma, and all this kind of weird stuff. And eventually they denied the case for lack of bona fides and fraud. And then on appeal and stuff, and I'm kind of paraphrasing everything, but this is very important to pay attention to nuance. You could get a case not approved because you didn't have bona fides, but that is not equivalent of fraud. Fraud is a higher standard and has to be proven, essentially to prove that fraud. So although in this case I think fraud was probably proven, the court, the decision, it might have been BIA even, was that there's a distinction between lacking bona fides and something being fraud. And that's very important because if you're going to do a subsequent case and they have fraud on them, that's going to create big problems. You might need a waiver and might not be approved. But if it's just lack of bona fides, it's just lack of bona fides. And maybe you could fix that up or at least have a new adjustment case based on, who knows, a new marriage, and avoid the fraud finding following you throughout the process. Okay, and then a scary thing, and I need more information about this, but a colleague posted that a couple came to them and they had an adjustment interview happening, and then when they went to the adjustment interview, they said, it's canceled, we can't see you today, and a few days later they got an NTA in the mail for an overstay for that person. So that's kind of a messed up situation because it's typical that when you file for adjustment, eventually it is going to be an overstay. And historically, the policy was that until a decision is made by USCIS, they're not going to actively go after those people. Although I've heard randomly, like student visa holders who fell out of status have ICE come after them and stuff like that. The random nuance kind of stuff. One of my colleagues told me it happened to them, and so I know for a fact at least it happened once. But these are like messed up situations that there's nothing really you can do, and it's scary. And finally, there's been a lot of RFEs. It's anecdotal, but it's happened anecdotally enough that I've heard about that it seems like a serious problem of USCIS RFing for incorrect birth certificates and stuff like that. And so it's a messed up situation because if you have the correct birth certificate and the RFU would say it's the incorrect birth certificate, and you're like, what am I going to do? Just resubmit and challenge them. But that kind of stuff happens. And be mindful of like European birth certificates who have translations on them. So like these European Union, for those countries that are within the European Union, their birth certificates come in like 5-6 different languages, and it's kind of like crazy how it looks. And English is one of the languages, but there's a code on the second page you have to reference. It's almost like a puzzle trying to see what the translations say. But I tell my clients, I'm like, just get a translation of the original like foreign language, like it's French or whatever. Just get the translation. And even though English is on there, just do that to solve the problem. And also be mindful that sometimes USCIS or just the government wants a birth certificate that's a long form. And some of these people give these extracts. So be careful of extracts coming from those government sources. USCIS or DOS it's easier with DOS if they want a correct one, they'll tell you. But USCIS, if you don't get a correct one, you get denied. So be very careful about that one. Okay, so moving off from USCIS, we're off to CBP. So CBP just went through some really bad PR, and it's bad activities, but it comes from on top. It's a lot of this CBP stuff. It's not like the officer at the bottom does it. They get their orders. And when there was that hurricane happening, I think it was like the Bahamas or something like that. Apparently, there's some sort of visa-free travel for people in those Caribbean islands for some of them, especially if they fly in, but maybe not when they're coming by sea. And there's video of this too. People were trying to run away, come on the boats to come in, and CBP or the boats weren't allowed them on. So that was a kind of a sad story to see that kind of stuff happen at the pre-clearance facilities in those countries. But that was sad. But another thing that's been happening is we're seeing that Iran, F1 students from Iran and China have been coming to the U.S. and either they've been given expedited removal or voluntary withdrawal at the airport in the U.S., or they have told the airlines not to let these students board. And these are top students from top schools who are transferring, or they had an opportunity in the private market to be very successful, go to schools in other top schools in other countries, and they decided to come to the U.S. and they were really hurt, especially for Iran, when they have to go through administrative processing, security checks. They have to go through travel ban kind of aspect. I mean, F1 students are not fall with the travel ban, but they get increased scrutiny and background checks. For them to make a decision to come here, spend all that money and time and push back their lives, so all of a sudden, with no rhyme or reason, get these bans like that are being not allowed in. It's just a messed up, sad case. So that's that. Now let's see. I'm gonna move on a little bit from the agency practice aspect to business and just some stuff that went through. And so in the last month, actually in September, I wrote this note, September, I had 3 consultations that I had to cancel because I had told the clients they're marriage cases. I primarily just do marriage cases nowadays. It's just the RFEs you get for EB cases, it's just such a headache, or L1s. So I always tell people when they're doing a marriage case that, first of all, when you email me or any communication from this time forward, the other spouse or partner or fiance has to be CC'd to the communication because it's a 3-party communication. So when people don't do that, it's a pet peeve. I get annoyed, but whatever. But I make it mandatory that the initial consultation has to be done in person or by video, so I can see both parties and tell if this is a lie, it's a fake. Do these people look like they're a couple or not? And sometimes it doesn't work out, the technology or something like that. It's understanding. But I had one where she couldn't get off work in time. So we were doing a 3-way video consultation. This is on yesterday even. And so I said, okay, we'll do a video, but the wife couldn't join my video. She was by phone because she said, I couldn't get off work in time. Have to do this 3-way conversation through the phone line because I'm driving. I'm sorry. And I was like, okay, I prefer to see you, but that didn't work out. But I had 3 that it kind of matches this one, but I had 3 that either would argue with me, no, we can't. And I was like, no, we have to. And they said, okay, we'll have our spouse on. It's no problem. Then the day of, they're like, oh, by the way, my spouse got busy, or they made some other plans, so they can't make it. But we'll see what you say, and I'll relay that information. And that's a definite no to me, because they can't relay information. They don't pay attention. People don't understand the nuances of the things we care about. And so many times, people don't know enough information about their spouse on various details of their lives that they give me bad information, and then that forces me to do another consultation, and they're not going to want to pay another consultation fee. So and then it wastes more time, and then who knows, after that they say, okay, we don't want to do it. All of a sudden I spend hours on this and follow-ups and stuff like that. So I make it mandatory. I need to see the people, talk with them, and do it. But 3 of them at the last second were like, oh, we'll relay the information. And to me, it's disrespectful when I make such a big deal at the beginning about this, and you say okay, and we coordinate and we have to go back and forth to get a time that works for 3 of us, because a lot of times the spouse is overseas, so we have to go, maybe an evening consultation or a weekend. And I set it up I work with people on this, and they don't. I just say, you know what, I don't care. I'm not open to playing this what is it called, telephone game of telling you something, you tell them something, and then you're not paying attention to the my needs and what I require for the process of the job well. And luckily, the solo practice that I have, I could afford to be picky like that. Because this is a tell right there. If the person's starting like this at the beginning to not follow instructions, then you know the rest of the path how it's going to be. And if they're that disrespectful to not follow instructions when I make such a big deal about it, and tell them, listen, you could go to other places. But if we schedule a time, we got to go based on what I say, because I do this and I do it right, and we got to stick with that. And they just don't care. These are the kind of people that are going to be a headache later and have some sort of complaints. That's going to be a mess. So that's it. And it's really important. I got to see both the clients, because I'm going to be working with both of them. They're not going to want to do a second consultation. They'll just say, no, we already talked. I want to hire you. I'm like, no, you got to see what's going on, because you're getting in bed with these people. You're getting married with this family until the case is over. And so you want to know who you're dealing with. And that's really important. I see so many people just say, okay, it's money coming in. No matter how rude they are, how disrespectful they are to their staff. Well, that's just the nature of things. Like, no, if you want to run a business like that, then go ahead. But this is, I put a lot of time and emotion into my practice. And so I'm not going to just, I have more respect for myself than to just let somebody do something like that. And if your business and marketing is good, then, who cares? 3 don't come. That opens up more time for me to get 5 clients. And that's really the mindset I have, because it is the facts of how it works. And I really implore you to have the same kind of mentality. Don't let the situation take you down. Already the administration is driving people crazy. Don't let the clients do that too. This podcast is for professionals in this field. There's so many good people. I'm not saying every client's gonna be bad, but the bad ones that come, don't bother with them. They could find some other attorney. But if you're listening to this, you care enough about your practice that you're constantly thinking in your free time to listen to this podcast, you deserve better. So really take that time that you don't get that client and improve yourself personally, improve your business administration, marketing, and procedures and knowledge of law. That'll serve you more in the long run. It'll make you more money. Now, the GAO said that the GAO stands for Government Accountability Office, or it might be, I don't know. But they said, according to DHS, the total population unlawfully resident in the United States has ranged between 10 million and 12 million persons every year since 2006, when DHS began publishing these estimates. So there's a large population. But, here you go, another news point. U.S. Immigration Court backlog exceeds 1 million cases. 1 million cases. I mean, it's just not a functional system, the way everything is working. And there has to be the A word, the amnesty or something, because it just doesn't make sense. The inputs don't make sense. The way they're handling doesn't make sense. It's a weird situation. Now, in one of my last podcasts, I did an interview with immigration attorney Ron Madden. And Ron is a great guy. He's done large volume, like H-1B kind of business cases. He used to work for the legal side of like an accounting firm in Canada doing immigration law. And so he's seen a lot, and he uses tech. He has to use tech a lot when you're doing that kind of volume, that kind of business. And we talked about in California, a lot of states are opening it up, especially for tech companies to get involved in our sphere, not just immigration, but in law in general, with the idea towards decreasing costs and the like. And so, that's an interesting idea. It's probably inevitable. Obviously, this bar we have to a certain extent helps us as practitioners, but at the other end, who knows how helpful the bar is. I have a story I'm going to tell you about in a second about that. But the idea is, when I was thinking about that, I was reading a book by Rory Sutherland. Now, I have a daily tips video program that I give to subscribers of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox. It's a paid subscription service. And I did a free, one of the dailies I put out free on my LinkedIn page, which breaks down what books I was reading last month. And one of them was a guy, Rory Sutherland. I'm going to do a book report on his book, because he's a branding expert, executive, one of the biggest branding companies. It's kind of like Mad Men kind of stuff, a top exec there, vice president. And he was talking just about branding and marketing, how people keep trying to do rational, logical stuff, but regular people aren't rational or logical, so that's the wrong way to go about it. But one thing a point he said, and I'm going to compare, lawyers to doormen right now. But, back in the day, if you lived in a reasonable sized apartment complex, something like that, there was always a doorman at the front that would let you in and out. And then they created the automatic door. So they said, okay, now we don't have to pay a person to be all day. There's a computer door that rotates it. And so in that sense, they did a function, a main function, a key function of that individual person that used to be in that position. That would help people come in and out. And in their minds, the accountant kind of mind was like, okay, we just saved this money and look, we hired them. But that really takes away from the total picture of what a human being that's specialist in the area brings. A doorman also acts as security. He keeps track of who's coming and going. Some thieves might not want to, go in there when they see someone's going to know who's coming and going. Because obviously the doorman sees everyone, knows everyone's coming to the building, and keeps track and has an eye out on stuff. So there's a security function. There's a friendliness function where people come out and they see what's happening. There's a cleanliness function where they're probably going to keep the place clean around there. If Amazon boxes come, the person's going to put it somewhere safe and deliver it or give it to the person they come in. They know everyone's who's there. So, example, if your grandma's living in that complex and she doesn't come down in 3-4 days, that doorman's going to notice all of a sudden, like, I should say door person. That door person is going to notice and maybe go and check on them and their well-being. That's a lot of value. It's intangible. You can't put that in a statistical Excel sheet and show, shareholders and the like, but there's a lot of extra value that comes in. And it's the same thing with immigration lawyers. Filling out the form is one aspect, but it goes deeper into making people feel more comfortable and safe about the process, catching stuff that they don't understand, talking with them, making sure things complete so there's less delays when there's mistakes. There's other aspects, like sometimes a client might be looking for a job and you have another friend or colleague that could do it, and you connect them. You teach him about life in America. I spend a lot of time with my clients, especially diversity visa applicants who eventually get the green card and come here, and I have to sit down almost as a psychology session with them and say, listen, you don't have anyone in the U.S. You're coming here fresh, a whole new country. It's competitive economically. America is all about work. It's not like the home country where you can take a siesta and relax. You're going to constantly be working on it. You're going to be running on a treadmill that just keeps going faster and faster. Now, we traditionally don't have political insecurity. The streets are much safer in a lot of countries. We have a higher standard of living, but that all comes at a cost. So be prepared for the emotional ups and downs and turmoil you're going to go through here, and let me know if something's wrong. If you're feeling really depressed or sad or something like that, or about the medical situation. I had one client who didn't understand how the healthcare works in America. I talked with them a little, just the various aspects of life here that's unique to us. Yeah, it's a friendship that you need. And most immigration lawyers are just going to get the case done out, so there's that. But when I talk about bringing value and higher end value and the way I practice, this stuff's really important to know. I'm a person too. I care about you, and you have no one else in America that you could trust, or frankly, and that you can trust. And I'm here for you. So let me know, and that's just part of the service I bring. That's intangible. How are you going to price that? I don't even go out and tell clients that I'm going to do that extra service, because you can't always do it in every case. Sometimes the person might be crazy and you want to get rid of them and just stay away. But for the most part, that's the kind of relationship I have. And how much is that worth? It's a big thing to me, but not everyone understands that. So nowadays, when you go to New York, for example, yeah, most places have these revolving doors, but the high end places still have a doorman in the front. And you know what that having a doorman means? That means the property value is going to go higher there too. So the value of the whole place is much higher, and so the tenants, they're happier, they live in a more expensive place, more secure place. And so that's the same thing that happens with these clients. They're going to have a more secure green card process by having a person. And because of that relationship, which is the most important thing, that relationship, they have a more added value that could come out, and they could live a better life in the U.S. And, it might have cost them a little bit more, but they'll make much more in the long run if they're wise enough to choose the right attorney. So that was my idea of that. And that idea just really goes to the way I practice. And I'll stop to talk about a little bit about the Champions for Freedom program I started. And so the Champions for Freedom program was this idea for me. I said, I've worked for other people, and I struggled with that, and it wasn't, working for me. Started my own firm, couldn't find a single client for such a long time until I studied and figured out how to do marketing and branding for myself. And with that, I was able to champion and become my own man and buy my own freedom, so that I could make decisions I want. I could accept the cases I want. I could turn down the clients I don't want to deal with. And I'm sure if you're an immigration attorney listening to this, you know what I'm talking about. If you're working for somebody and they said, here's this case, deal with this person, and you look at them, you're like, this is the last person I want to deal with, but I have to, you know what I'm talking about. Or when you didn't make enough money for the month and someone comes in on, October 25th, and they're going to spend a couple of $1,000s, and you're like, well, I need that because I got to pay for my rent. Damn it, I got to accept that. You know the pressures I'm talking about. So my goal was to create the Champions for Freedom, to first get your own freedom, and then once you're secure in that, do the next level and help people get their freedom as well. So one is helping people study the immigration law when you have more time, because you're making so much money and taking on less cases. They can study and give that freedom to more people, and then also do pro bono, low bono cases, do free online tutorial videos, all that kind of stuff. And also then make so much money that you could potentially work 10, 20 hours a month only and live that standard of living, and then have all this extra time to give value back to society, volunteer in different places, maybe even make more money and then take that money and give it out, or spend time. Frankly, the most important thing to me, spend time with your family. I have the ability to be with my kids every day. I just had another kid. It's 10-day-old. I'm sorry. 10 days ago, I had a baby. Well, my wife did, but I was there. Actually, a doctor let me deliver the baby. I started to sound gross, but I pulled the baby out myself. Slippery. I was really afraid it's going to fall. But baby Jackson came out. And so, and I've been with him every day and practicing. I was actually practicing while at the hospital was happening. Because, I have a couple clients. It was right before public charge was about to go in. And so, I was emailing back and forth, doing this stuff. But all you need is a computer. And it was easy enough for my downtime. I just filled out I-130 here and there. And then eventually went home, printed and mailed it. But it was just, 10 minutes here, 30 minutes there, 40 minutes here, just on the downtime. And you could do that. And all you need is, 3-4 cases, and you're living almost a 1% lifestyle. You get 1 or 2 cases, then you're top 1% for sure. And with the low overhead, all you have to worry about is the taxes, really. So that's the motto I create for Champions of Freedom, for freedom. And originally it's just for immigration attorneys to do extra educational training for them and marketing and branding. But because of the podcast, a lot of people who are not immigration lawyers, who do criminal law, workman's comp, bankruptcy, who really want to get involved in this field because they want to give back and they enjoy the one-on-one experience with people. So I mean, if you're doing bankruptcy law, every time you're dealing with somebody, you're dealing with them at one of the worst states, bankruptcy. But when you're doing a marriage-based immigration case, you're dealing with the best state. Oh, we're married and we're in love. Or an E2, I have some money, I want to start a business in the U.S. and be an entrepreneur. So it's like, okay, they're high-paying stuff. You're dealing with happy people. And so it's a real pleasure. And so I got into this program, Champions for Freedom, training system. And I set it up, and it's been going. I don't even market it, and people have found me and requesting my help in this stuff, and I put them in this program, and it works great. So if you're listening to this, whether you're an immigration student struggling and you want to change the way your career is working, that's been a real positive area. I've been able to help people, and you might hear Baby Jackson in the background screaming and yelling right now, but. Is to help them take the next level, because when I see online marketing and branding for immigration lawyers, 99% of them have at least $10,000 just on the table and are not picking up because they didn't complete the process to develop their identity there. And I hate to say just straight up numbers, there's no guarantees and all that kind of stuff, but it's like it's so easy to pick up, and because no one else is doing it, the competition isn't there. And that's how I've been able to spend so much time doing a podcast and daily videos, LinkedIn and all this kind of stuff, and still have a great lifestyle. And I really want to share that with people, because the immigration bar, it's a really personal thing to me. I really love what I do. I love the people out in this bar, and it's such a special area, and we do so much good for the country. We bring in the best people, the toughest people that are willing to immigrate. These aren't lazy people that immigrate. That's one thing you could say about that. And so I really take pleasure in helping people in what I do. I'm very proud of it, and I want to help other people do it as well. So it's not only for immigration lawyers coming, but also people from other practice areas that are really fed up with what they're doing. They want to have this lifestyle while at the same time giving back. So if you were interested in that in your attorneys, so for attorneys only, email me, info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. We can set up a call so I can explain what's involved and see if it's right for you. I can get you information at first, see what your background is, what your goals are, and if my program fits you and I see we could work together, it's a cohesive kind of thing, we could grow together, participate in this program, participate in the toolbox. I would love to do it and spread this message for freedom. That's what I'm about. So let's move on. And actually, a story I forgot to mention, I said I was going to mention. It's a very sad story. I think I know this attorney that this happened to. And I think it was a messed up situation. I think it was overkill by the California State Bar. But there was, let me pull up my notes on it. Where is it? So it was a practitioner, and she just got suspended from the practice of law for 1 year, the execution of that suspension is stayed, and respondent is placed on probation for 1 year. With the following condition, respondent must be suspended from the practice of law for the first 90 days. Okay, I read from the script what it says, but essentially it said they're suspended for a year, but then they're not suspended for a year, but they're suspended 90 days. I'm not sure why they wrote it like that. And they also have to pay bar fees of $3,800, and this situation is going to fall. And what they do? Well, the facts aren't well written in what's going on. I'm sure there's missing information, but just to paraphrase it, apparently there was a removal of conditions case, I-751. And what this person did, the immigration attorney did, is what I know a lot of people do, especially old timers do this. They had them just sign the forms, blank forms, I-751 and G28, when they first came to a consultation, so they could fill out the rest of the information later, and left the dates blank. Because you never know when you're going to see the client again. They're traveling to get the document to you, especially I-751 where there's a deadline. If they don't get it to you in time, it's a big problem. So they had pre-signed, then fill out the forms, emailed that to them to say, are these good? But then it doesn't make clear whether the client okayed or not, but then submitted the application on December 21st. Now, and backed it and just putting the date in themselves, December 19th is the date of signature. Now, it's not clear when the deadline was. Maybe the attorney had to file because it's getting late and the person wasn't responding. That happens too. And then on December 22nd, the client emails them to say, oh, there's typographic error on there, but the person doesn't respond back until January 3rd or January 12th, actually. So, there is a delay in the response there, but it was right at Christmas, New Year, so maybe that's the reason why. And the attorney had filed it, and then they got a receipt. So they followed up with them, but they never fixed the errors, and it goes on like that. Eventually, the person gets divorced, and so the attorney says, I can't do this case anymore, conflict, please go to another attorney. They FOIA the file and see the typographic errors, and then they file a bar complaint, and this person gets suspended. So those are the basic facts, and you should read them more. to me, it doesn't warrant a suspension. Maybe just a slap on the wrist, really, because that wasn't that bad. But that's the kind of craziness that's happening. So a point I want to make is, yeah, don't pre-sign, don't date yourself, all this kind of stuff, because you never know what's going to happen. And when you send the forms to the clients to sign or to review, make sure they, in writing in some way, could go back and say, hey, you confirm that the information is correct. No, and if they call you and say the info is correct, like no, text me or email me that it's correct, to keep it in writing so they don't come back and say it's a problem. But frankly, most of the typographic stuff you could just send a letter and fix it anyway. So it's not the worst thing. I think that the pre-signing was a big deal, and then failing to respond to 2 of the inquiries that the client made to the lawyer, although the timelines weren't that bad. So I think it was overkill what they did. But one note is they said this was a highly vulnerable victim, and that's one of the reasons they were so harsh. And it said by virtue of the client's temporary conditional residence status at the time he hired respondent, and the fact that he relied on respondent to assist him to avoid deportation, the client was a vulnerable victim. So assist to avoid deportation. Yeah, you got to file I-751 or else you're going to be put in removal, but it's not like full-on deportation. I think it's overkill the way they're assessing what happened to say they're highly vulnerable victim. It's just you got to file the I-751. If there's errors, you could do an RFE, unless it's something crazy major, which it probably wasn't. So that's a sad situation, but you got to be careful, man. People will come at you get one of these disgruntled clients, and it kind of goes back. You got to read them from the beginning consultation. Are these going to be crazy people? And not to say that what she did was fully right, I don't even know the person, the client, to say they're like that, but probably it's one of those people you could tell from the beginning that they're going to be really, worked up. And so you got to have so many clients coming in so you could turn down these people and move to the next one without hesitating. And it's a reality, because you're like, ugh, that's just some money I left on the table. Like, no. By leaving that, $5,000 on the table, you just picked up $15,000 somewhere else. And have that mentality. There's not scarcity here. There's a lot out there, and there's a lot you can provide. The knowledge you have is not just for clients. It could affect society in different ways. You could do business on it in different ways. Don't make yourself two-dimensional or one-dimensional, that you can only do this, and whoever comes in, you have to take as a client. Be careful with your overhead. Don't be overspending on stuff. Do the right kind of marketing. Don't overpay some of these companies, paying astronomical fees for them to do services that are horrible. I don't know if I talked about this already, but I have a friend of mine who hired this one, SEO, search engine optimization company to help him out. And how I know is I have a blog, and on the blog it has a comment section, and it's something that happens frequently with these law firms that hire these black hat, which means like bogus, like bad working SEO companies, is they leave a comment that says, oh, great blog. By the way, visit my website, www blah, blah, blah. And by doing that, they're getting artificial backlinks to their own website to get legitimacy for themselves in front of Google's eyes. But Google doesn't like these kind of fake tactics to put backlinks on other people's websites that are forced, that are not legitimate. And so what I always do is I just mark those as spam, and Google gets notified, and then that site gets a penalty on them. But all of a sudden, I was sending a comment. It was my buddy's website. And so I immediately rang him up and I said, dude, did you hire an SEO company? He said, yes. I'm like, well, you need to fire them right now, then hire another one to clean up the work that they did, because they just did a bunch of black hat tactics. Now, because you're my friend, I didn't mark this as spam. I just deleted it. But other people are going to mark it as spam, and Google's going to see that you're just spamming everybody, and then you're going to get hit and penalized for that. And so, the marketing, trust me, it's not that complicated. You could do it yourself and save a bunch of money. It's all the information is out there. I've kind of centralized it, and I could coach you through it. But if not, just go on YouTube and read and study and spend your time checking out these books. It takes a lot of time to read it, but have somebody who can tell you what to do and do it yourself. Or once you learn how to do it yourself, train your assistant to do what you need to do. But don't give it to these companies that are black hat tactics that cost so much money. Now, some of them are good, especially if you're running like a major firm that has a bunch of employees that you should probably hire a company. But if you're a solo and you have the time and you do have the passion to do branding and marketing, you enjoy it, you want to make your own brand of your face, your personality, and what you do, which is the way to do things nowadays in the social media kind of culture, and especially the new millennial immigration trends that are coming up, then you really got to get to know this stuff and don't put your fate in someone else's hands. So speaking of putting fate in someone else's hands, Department of State. So DOS, they have a statistics they put out, and it's very interesting. I got to study it more. I'm sure I could get some really good statistics if I spend more time analyzing the visa statistical facts that they put out. Find ways to do better marketing. For example, like one thing I noticed, I was studying, I saw these visa statistics for non-immigrant visas, and I'm like, well, who is the country that gets the most e-visas? So I looked at a month, and all of a sudden I saw Japan is the number one E2 country, and I wouldn't even thought that. I thought it was going to be some European country. But if I was really into E2s and I really just want to do that, I would do targeted ads in Japanese or hire a Japanese assistant to help me and just take care of that market. Imagine getting a couple of E2s at a large sum for, I can't say exact numbers because I think that's some sort of SEC bullshit, but imagine like you getting large, let's see, four, how much you charge? Let's see, four or five figures, large 4 or 5 figures for E2s. And you just do, your solo practice, get 1 or 2 a month, you're gonna be rolling in the dough. So these targeted ads based on statistics you could get that are out there is really good. But another thing that popped up for me besides the E2 was a K3. So I've been getting a lot of people recently, and even my own clients, so like, why haven't we filed a K3, or could we do a K3? And historically, I never touch a K3 because it's a waste of time. Nothing's gonna come of it. But one of my clients last year said, no, I want to do it. And we did it. And all of a sudden, the I-130 was approved in like 90 days. And then I had another colleague who said he did the same. And 2 or 3 people called me and said they had the same situation, or they read on the website or something. So anecdotally, it seems like potentially the K3 may cause the I-130 to move faster. Who knows? Now, there's no filing fee for the I-129F. It's just a legal fee of doing all this extra paperwork. But one fear is if the K3 is approved and they do come, then that's a problem, because when you come in a K3, you don't have a work permit, so you have to apply for that. And the whole point that I prefer people do consular processing as opposed to doing fiance visas is because once they come here, they don't have to wait at home for the EAD to come. But who knows, if the K3 is approved, then you're stuck in that same situation. But reading the statistics, apparently, like in the last quarter, there's only like 3 K3s issued, 2 of them from CDJ. So no one's getting the K3. So if you file it, and if you kind of want to spend extra money, you tell them, and I'm telling them now, because I'm saying, listen, this is anecdotal, and it could not be. I'm not saying this is going to happen. Most likely it's not. But if you really want to spend the extra money, we can file the K3. It may push the I-130 to get approved faster. I don't know. Anecdotally, I've heard it. It's up to you. I just want to tell you, because I've had 2 or 3 clients that got frustrated that I didn't tell them. So I thought, okay, now I'll tell them so they're ready. But I thought I'd share that with you. Now, the SEAC website for consular processing. If you can't see us on video, I'm just rubbing my face like, that. If you hear SEAC and your immigration attorney, you know how much a mess of system it is. It keeps logging you out. You have to put those capture word things in there, which doesn't work. So you have to do like 3 or 4 times so it goes through. Then when you go to upload documents, see it says the website's down. Or you try to upload it, all of a sudden it logs you out and it says put the capture words in again. So unbelievably annoying. In the DOS AILA meeting, they said they're not changing anything, so we're stuck with this program, and nothing's going. So that's terrible news. But on the other end, the travel ban. So apparently, the report by the State Department said 30,000 people were blocked from entry because of the travel ban. So that was a sad situation. But on the other end, recently, apparently, they've created some sort of better system for dealing with and processing child ban cases, where in the last 2 months, for immediate relative cases, I go to the embassy, I'm getting approved on the spot, which is nuts. I haven't been getting that on spot approvals for travel ban countries in years. But the old ones that were pending administrative processing for like 3 years and stuff, they're still stuck. And it seems like lawsuits are the only way to get those moving forward, until apparently they're working backwards now to try to get those old cases into the system. But who knows? And after 3 years of waiting, you might as well just sue and get it if you could afford the filing fees for it and the legal fees. But that was interesting news to put out there. And then I think I talked about this earlier, this medical insurance requirements, that's kicked in. We'll see how that works. I think November 1st or 3rd is when that's a new standard that comes in. Although I think I saw a colleague get a denial for it or get a letter for it. Or actually, it was for public charge. They're already pushing him on it. So all this stuff's coming to fruition and it's happening. It's scary. Okay, so a short part on ICE. So the district court blocked DHS from expanding expedited removal. Thank God, expedited removal is like such a scary situation. Essentially, if you're around any border, which is every population center in America, they can just stop you and ask for papers. So that's such a messed up thing. And then acting secretary, which is no longer there, he left actually. When I wrote these notes, he was the Department of Homeland Security Secretary, McLennan, I think, announced end to widespread catch and release. So we're stopping catch and release and trying to do a more formal system, probably expedited removal or something like that. So that's happening. Now I'm going to end with the section that I know the least about, EOIR in the courts. So Zuniga Romero v. Barr, 4th Circuit 2019. This is a matter of Castro. Okay, so this is a good case. So the 4th Circuit granted a petition for review of the BIA's dismissal of petitioner's appeal in light of matter of Castro Tum. in Castro, the Attorney General concluded. So Attorney General took on this case and made a decision that IJs, immigration judges, the BIA, do not have the general authority to administratively close cases, which is so stupid with the backlog that we have. But said the court held that 8 CFR 1003.10b and 1003.1d1 Roman numeral 2 unambiguously confer upon IJs and the BIA the general authority to administratively close cases. The court held that Castro was not entitled to our defense, and in the absence of such deference, the court applied Skidmore deference. In this case, the court explained that a court reviewing Castro for Skidmore deference would not be persuaded to adopt the agency's own interpretations of its regulation for substantially the same reason it was not entitled to our deference, because it represents a stark departure without notice from long-used practice, and thereby cannot be deemed consistent with earlier and later pronouncements. Therefore, the BIA's decision should be vacated and remanded for further proceedings. So that was awesome. Next case, 10th Circuit upholds removal order for detained pro se. Oh, this is such a sad case. So this guy was detained, couldn't do his medical for adjustment, and it was denied. And the court said, "Tough luck. You should have done your medical. You're removed." So that was Brown v. Barr, 2019, 10th Circuit. That was pretty nasty right there. And then finally, court finds visa delays faced by thousands of Iraqis and Afghanis who assisted the United States are unlawful. So there you go to show. If you're going to be supporting the United States, be careful. We never know what we're going to do with you. That's the message we send to our foreign policy. You can't trust us. That's a genius move that people running this country do. If you're a foreign person, you never know, depending on who the people in charge are, how much they care about you. And this really goes to America, too. We vote and have this warm, fuzzy feeling that the government's going to take care of us. Ain't nobody going to take care of you. Just yourself and me. If you're I'll take care of you. I'll do my best here. The community really is what you need to focus on. We vote because we think some person in some faraway place is going to make a decision that's better for life. Not going to happen. It's about you, your neighbors, your community, and really this immigration bar that we have. We got to stick together, thinking through, and just support each other and help each other. I've talked about, I wish I could make some sort of solo immigration practitioner insurance plan so we could all get in on that. But at least here I could kind of give you stuff I've learned, every month, share it with you, have colleagues on. And when I do these interviews, I'm promoting these people because I want them to succeed as well. And I'm not getting anything from it. These are people I just, see them done good work, or they reach out to me. I say, okay, let's talk about practice of immigration law. And it helps their practice. And you know what? So be it. I don't need every client. I really enjoy boosting other people and having those relationships because, I can rely on them hopefully one day when my family needs it too. So anything I could do, the mindset is abundance, and I really want to share that with you and have that this week that's starting. How could I just give back more? And frankly, this is such a corny, cheesy thing to say, but it really does work. Just by this podcast and sharing this information, continuous basis, I've gotten so much out of it. Opportunity, friendships, knowledge, education. It's on a different level. And I just tell you, man, do the same. Don't be worried. Don't be paranoid. Listen, there's more and more podcasters coming on, that immigration attorneys that do it. You can have the instinct of saying, oh no, it's more competitive. Or you could just, like I did, reach out to them and say, hey, how can I help you? And I actually had, a couple of interviews ago, I had a gentleman that started his own podcast, and it was great. I hope he's successful. And he's a great guy. Why not connect and help each other? I was then on his podcast. It just got to change that mentality. We're not in the old hunter-gatherer phases or something, or just the old way of thinking where if my tribe doesn't get it, then your tribe, if your tribe gets it, then my tribe's not going to get it. That kind of mentality doesn't work in the information age when things aren't as fixed. The pie isn't as fixed, and it could be much larger. And the more education knowledge I get, I realize just how big this pie really is, and just how easy it is to access all of it and share it and have everyone be happy, so that we're all worried about trying to pay the bills. So it's a great life to live. We there's downsides, there's ups and downs. So we've got to push it forward. But I think we can really turn the corner in this generation, make some big changes in the world. So thank you so much for listening to the Immigration Lawyers Podcast. Please reach out. The website is Immigration Lawyers Toolbox, or immigrationlawyerspodcast.com. Goes to the Toolbox website, where you can find videos and more information, news, headlines, and you can always reach out to me, info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. I'm John Khosravi. Until next one, have a good one.